When you send a command, it doesn't run in a vacuum. Between the mediator and your handler sits a pipeline of behaviors. The cross-cutting concerns every message needs: error handling, tracing, logging, authorization, validation. It's like ASP.NET middleware, but for your domain messages. And instead of throwing, each behavior speaks in results. So any one of them can short-circuit the whole thing by returning a failure. The order is fixed and deliberate. Let me walk you through it. Here's what actually happens when you send a command. It flows through a pipeline of behaviors, outer to inner. Each one wraps the next, with your handler at the core. First, an exception behavior. So an unexpected throw becomes a typed result instead of a raw stack trace. Then tracing, one span per message from the Trellis Mediator source. Then logging, a structured record of every message starting, finishing, or failing. Then authorization. Does this actor hold the permissions the message requires? Then validation. Do the rules pass? Those two can short-circuit before your handler ever runs. Closest to the handler sit two opt-in wrappers, a domain event dispatcher and a transaction. The transaction commits the unit of work when the handler succeeds, and as the pipeline unwinds, just after that commit, the domain events are dispatched. Your handler, at the core, stays focused on business logic, one fixed, predictable order. You rarely write the built-in behaviors. They ship with the framework. But the rules you write ride the same rails. Here's an archive project command. It declares one resource rule, and you implement authorize. Inside, you reach for ensure, Trellis's canonical guard, which turns a plain Boolean check into a result. If the actor isn't the project's owner and doesn't hold the admin permission, you hand back a forbidden failure, and the handler and every stage inside it simply never run. No exception thrown, no half-finished work. That's the contract every stage honors. Speak in results. And a failure anywhere short-circuits everything deeper. Your handler runs only on the happy path. It can assume it's already valid. And you turn this on with a few lines at startup. Add Mediator registers the dispatcher. Add Trellis behaviors adds the 5 always-on behaviors: exception, tracing, logging, authorization, and validation, in that canonical order. Add domain event dispatch opts your service into publishing domain events after each command commits. And down in the ACL, add Trellis unit of work wraps every command in a transaction that commits only when the handler succeeds. The 5 core behaviors are always there. The event dispatch and the transaction are opt-ins you add when you want them. 3 reasons this matters. 1. Your cross-cutting concerns live in exactly one place. Authorization isn't re-implemented in 40 handlers. It's a single behavior every message flows through. 2. The order is deliberate. You authorize before you validate. You validate before the handler. And you commit the transaction only after the handler succeeds. So you never do work for a caller who wasn't allowed in. And 3. Because a failure short-circuits inward, your handler runs only on the happy path. It doesn't check permissions. It doesn't revalidate. It doesn't open a transaction. All of that already happened. The handler is just your business logic, clean. So that's the pipeline, a fixed, ordered chain of behaviors: exception handling, tracing, logging, authorization, validation, wrapping every command and query, with the transaction and domain event dispatch around the handler. Each one can short-circuit with a result, so your handler stays focused on the one thing only it can do: your business logic. Next time, we zoom in on one of those behaviors, authorization, and the distinction underneath it. Authentication versus authorization, who you are versus what you're allowed to do. Subscribe, and I'll see you there.